Good Monday afternoon to you. It is game day. Browns getting ready for a primetime matchup with the Pittsburgh Steelers in Pittsburgh. With a win tonight, the Browns can go to 2-0 for the first time since 1993. They could also win in the first time in Pittsburgh during a regular season game since 2003, and they can also be one of just 3 teams in the AFC to start the season 2-0. Myles Garrett talked about all of that.
Just throwing a lot of different information out there. We're just going to Pittsburgh to play a game at 8 o'clock or whatever time it is. And we're not worried about all the history behind all these curses or records we're trying to break. We just want to be 1-0 at the end of the week. We're not worried about anything else.
And with that, let's welcome in G. Bush from 92.3 The Fans Barbershop, as well as the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. I love the answer by Myles Garrett.
Yep, don't try to bait me into it. We saw what happened to Jamar Chase. We're not going to give you the same opportunity, Pittsburgh. We coming in here with our hard hat on, and I think he's echoing what Jim Shorts has been talking about. I think you see the demeanor that they have. It's one game at a time, one opponent at a time, and they're finally starting to understand, for themselves. If you go out there and you play, it'll take care of itself. If you go out there and play with energy and effort, it'll take care of itself. You can't worry about what happened, in 1989, and you can't be worrying about what was going down 35, 40 years ago. Some of these kids weren't even born. I call them kids because I pinch myself and say, man, I'm 42 years old. That's crazy. But yeah, that has no bearing on your destiny. What happened in the past is our skeletons in our closets, because we've seen the Browns lose, inexplicable leads or lose in every way possible to the Pittsburgh Steelers and some of the other teams in the division. That's on us. That's our stuff that we need to go to therapy about. But for the players that's in their locker room, they got everything they want in front of them. They got an opportunity to go 2-0 to the division and against a team that has traditionally beat the brakes off of us, and they have an opportunity now to go and put pressure on the rest of the teams in the division. So that's the stuff they should be worried about, and not whatever the talk is around town. And I think it's a good opportunity for the Browns to go out and do something to put themselves in a position to have control their destiny in the North, and let the other stuff worry about itself.
So Mike Tomlin on the Mike Tomlin Show over the weekend talked about DeShaun Watson.
He looks more like he did in Houston. His ability to extend plays, his downfield accuracy, his downfield abilities, his ability to stretch the field, his arm strength and field vision down the field. Those things, his willingness and their willingness to use design quarterback runs as a weapon, to utilize his legs, not only in terms of his ability to create when passing plays break down, but hit a rushing touchdown by design in the red area last week, for example. His abilities and their willingness to utilize his legs is also something that has our attention as we move into 2023.
G. Bush, weather is supposed to be just fine tonight. What do you expect to see from DeShaun Watson against the Steelers?
I've been on record on the Barbershop. I've been on record on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show, and I'm going to be a record on your show here today. I fully expect DeShaun Watson to have a breakout game. This is the game I think he's going to have his signature breakout win, and every quarterback needs it. He's looked better and better as the weeks going on. We've been finding a way to win. So the weather was an issue even for Joe Burrow last week, but at some point in time, we're looking for that signature win. We're looking for that signature game. Baker had it a couple years ago when he threw those 5 touchdown passes and let him come back from that comeback win against Cincinnati. All quarterbacks have it, right? And you're looking for that, right? And I think as soon as he gets that under his belt, he'll start to have even more confidence. All he needs to do is see that, hey, I'm still that dude. And I think he had all the purposes of doing that against the Cincinnati Bengals, but the weather didn't permit it. Today is going to be a signature day. Tonight for him is on Monday Night Football with the entire world watching. Amari Cooper looks like he's not going to be able to play. But you have Elijah Moore, who everyone talked about. You have David Njoku, who we've been waiting to break out as well. Donovan Peoples-Jones, who they felt the need to keep him and not go after guys like DeAndre Hopkins and some Jerry Jeudy. They felt that DPJ was that guy, and they like Cedric Tillman, right? So he's going to have a complement of receivers, and I fully expect him to come out and put up some big numbers. I expect him to play with a lot of swagger, and I expect the Cleveland Browns to win this football game. And it's not in spite of him, it's DeShaun Watson leading the way down the road to a victory.
Yeah, this the Monday Night Football, just don't be too hyped and go play like you can, and I think they'll be just fine. All right, this is Colin Cowherd on the Browns-Steelers matchup. This from FS1, The Herd with Colin Cowherd.
If the Steelers lose, here's their reality. 0-2, both losses at home, fourth best quarterback in their division. That's their reality. If you're a Steeler fan, forget your history. Nobody cares. Forget your history. What are you today? A defensive culture in an offensive league. Never great, but never terrible, and you pride yourself on loyalty and continuity. You sound like a well-run business without any upside. You're profitable, you're stable. It's a way to make a living. In 2023, that's the Steelers. It's a restaurant that never changes its menu. Same customers, same menu. Hi, Marge. Biscuits and gravy are ready for you.
It's mediocre, is what it is, G. Bush.
Man, you see, people are detractors of Colin Cowherd sometimes, but I find that he has a talent. I find he has a talent. He's a storyteller like myself. If you've ever listened to the barbershop, you're not going to come in there for any stats and all this other stuff. I'll give you some stats, but really, it's a mom and pop shop. I'm really giving you nice stories so you can digest it and put it in context with sports. And he did a beautiful job right there in that instance. Now, don't get me wrong. He is wrong a lot of times on some other things, but in that instance, he's correct. I just said in the last segment, Pittsburgh, you can't cash checks and that your grandparents put work in on. It's like Social Security. Look, I understand fully well that I'm not going to get no Social Security. So you might want to plan for anybody that is over the age of 35 and below the age of 42. We know what's coming down the pipeline. And for the Pittsburgh Steelers, you've been able to position yourself and win football games because you got a franchise quarterback, and that franchise quarterback was awesome. You had Big Ben Roethlisberger, you picked him, you rode him to the wheels fall off, and he gave you championships. You were able to build rosters around people. You were able to get receivers on the cheap and still have a great offense because you had the quarterback. But a lot of people laughed at the Cleveland Browns because we had all those quarterbacks with all the names on the back of the jersey and good stuff. But see, here's the thing. You, at one point in time, you're going to have to reload. You're going to have to re-up. And then you're going to be on the gauntlet. It's a 50-50 proposition if you're taking a quarterback in the first round. And guess what? Most people fail before they actually hit. So Kenny Pickett, I don't know if you guys think you got something over there. I don't see it. And this game, like you said, it's a reality. It's a reality check. Hayward, guess what? He's one of your best defensive linemen. He's getting older. TJ Watt, if he doesn't have a quarterback, all you're doing is wasting his prime. Remember what your receiver core, you build on defense, and we don't even know if you got a good franchise quarterback or a running back that you invested in. Today could be a pivotal time for the Pittsburgh Steelers because if the Browns come in and put it on them, I think it signifies that that's where the direction of their culture and their organization is moving in the next 5 years.
All right, so this is from the Steelers Live crew, Dale Lally, Matt Williamson. They talk about the Browns' defensive front and that running back, Najee Harris.
When you look at the defensive tackle group from a year ago, I frankly thought it was one of the worst position groups in all of football. And the Browns obviously agreed because they went out and spent money on Tomlinson. They used a draft pick. They went out and really fortified their defensive front with others besides Myles Garrett. Like, if you looked at that front, he had 16 sacks last year. Number 2 on their team had 3. I mean, there was nobody around him. Well, that's not the case at all now. But still, back to that voluminous running and the physical, nature that Harris brings, I think you have to at least test what was a weakness from a year ago over and over.
Najee's played 4 career games against the Browns, averages over 100 yards on the ground per game. Is that something that can consistently be taken over season by season?
I think so. I mean, absolutely. And again, It's going to be a lot of touches. I think it'll pay off late in games. You know, what's really interesting to me about this matchup is last year when the Steelers had a lead at halftime, they were close to unbeatable, where the Browns under Stefanski are the total opposite. Their halftime leads, if they're losing at halftime, they almost always end up with a loss. So if you can kind of keep it close, go in with a small lead, and then just keep leaning on the run game, I think you'll be in good shape.
They only ran the ball 10 times last week because they fell behind so quickly. The other thing is, Stefanski didn't have a quarterback he liked. I mean, Baker Mayfield's 2-0. That's great. But Stefanski now has his quarterback.
Man, I don't know which games they're watching. I mean, I know you got to do it one of the network shows, but I mean, you got physically beat up yet last week against the 49ers. I mean, listen, they were hitting Najee Harris so hard that they had to abandon the run halfway through the first quarter. I don't know whether they didn't see the game against because Joe Mixon is a lot better than Najee Harris, and Joe Mixon got nothing going. It's wishful thinking that you could come out there and just say, we're going to run the ball, and then hopefully we can wear them down in the fourth quarter. Well, that only works if you got a quarterback that's going to make you pay. And I don't know if they saw the pressure that we were able to generate with the defensive line we got. I think if the Browns, if they ran the game plan that I just heard and you just played, the Browns would be ecstatic. They would be jumping up for joy. Okay, you're going to get Najee Harris the ball 45 times, we'll take it. Because I haven't seen too many games where he's getting it 45 times and they've been a dominant run team. And by the way, up front, the PFF grades were not good for any of their linemen. None of those linemen, including the fact that Kenny Pickett was turning the ball over. So to me, I think the only chance for the Pittsburgh Steelers to win this game is they need to run play action. They need to get the ball out to Pickens. They need to get quick three-step game off. I don't think that's the game plan to be messing around with trying to establish the run and basically running against what the Browns defense is the strength of the defense is D-line. I don't think that's a good idea.
G. Bush and I are going to step aside, take a quick timeout. Other side of the break, we'll head to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. Sports for CLE. We'll be right back. Stay with us. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine. We continue talking Browns with G. Bush from 92.3 The Fans, The Barbershop, as well as the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. Let's head to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
Yes, this is Keith calling from Columbus. The bark is getting a lot louder. What I was calling for is DeShaun not putting up the gaudy numbers. But I also overheard DeShaun say he doesn't care about the numbers, that all he cares about is winning. I pose this. Would you rather us go 14-3, he plays at a mediocre quarterback stat-wise, or would you rather him put up gaudy numbers, we finish 9-6 or whatever it would be, and miss the playoffs by a game or so, but we see that he now is an elite thrower of the football? We have better talent now, so I just don't understand why they so pressed about him putting up gaudy numbers. As long as we're winning and you can see that he's not going to lose games for us, who cares? Let's go get this Super Bowl. Again, Dog Pound, love you guys.
Appreciate all of the voicemails. G. Bush, the numbers, people are overstating that. He needs to be able to make plays with his legs, with his arms, when the game is on the line. A perfect example, that run right before half where he audibled to a designed run where they got a touchdown, like 15, 18, whatever it was, yard touchdown. Make plays like that win games. That's all he's got to do. Then he's an elite quarterback. That's what an elite quarterback does.
Yeah, I think there's a couple things that happens here because, and you can't look at DeShaun Watson without looking at Baker Mayfield. One of the reasons why there's such a large scrutiny on the fact that, they want DeShaun Watson to put up really big numbers is because at once upon a time, Baker Mayfield was winning with the Cleveland Browns in 2020. He wasn't putting up crazy numbers. He was managing an offense. They were running bootlegs, leading on the run game with Chubb and Hunt, and they made it to the playoffs, won a playoff game with that type of style of game. But there were detractors that said, hey, look, I like Baker, but I don't think he could get you to the next level, and I don't think you can win a Super Bowl with him. So that argument that a lot of people had, a lot of people are still invested in Baker Mayfield. They're still emotionally attached to what it is. And you'll have people in Cleveland that even watch Tampa Bay games. They keep a note and like, okay, let me see what Baker's doing, right? And so that trickles down to you have a new quarterback. And they're going to say, well, if it was good for Baker where you guys said that he wasn't good enough to win, at what point does DeShaun Watson have to put up numbers to prove that he is better than Baker Mayfield? Now, most football people and coaches will say already, no, it's not even comparable. DeShaun is just a better player than Baker Mayfield. However, the people want you to prove it to them, right? You got to overshow them. Like, so they're looking for the 300, the 400-yard games, the 4 touchdown pass games, those different things like that. And they're looking for proof rather than having faith that it'll be there or seeing the little small nuances that he's getting better. So that's half of the reason. And to the caller's point, forget 9-6. If he want to throw for 250 yards and we win every game, I don't care nothing about that 400-yard stuff. Hey, listen, do you want to be 2-0 or do you want to be 0-2 like the Chargers? Justin Herbert's stats look great right now, but I'm sure everybody in that locker room is not excited about that 0-2 start. So for me, I think DeShaun will get better as it goes on, and people continue to think about this. You have a great defense, who I think is going to be great the rest of the year, and the best running back in the game. Use it.
Yeah, absolutely. And if they try to take the running back away, then you make them pay downfield.
There you go.
All right, 3 matchups that could swing the game for the Browns. This is from Dog Pound Daily. Number 3, DeShaun Watson against the free safety Minkah Fitzpatrick. Number 2, Martin Emerson against George Pickens. And number 1, DeJuan Jones against T.J. Watt. G. Bush, I expect Emerson to be on Pickens. And Pickens is a guy that he's young, and if he doesn't have success early and things aren't going his way, you can rattle him. He's a talented kid, but when things go south, he has not shown that he can deal with that just yet.
Oh, I love that comment. You could take him all the way out the game because he's a guy already. He's already retweeting, he ain't getting the ball enough. Now Deontay Johnson is out of this game. And so now Firebooth is banged up. So now in his mind, I got to take over. His people tell him, hey, man, it's all on you. You got to make the plays. They got to spoon feed you the ball if they want to be successful offensively. And if they want to come out and run the ball and they're not successful with it, and he's not getting the ball, every series that go by, he's going to be more and more upset, more and more frustrated, more and more demonstrative if he's not getting the ball and if the Browns are scoring on the opposite end of the spectrum. The people may think I'm crazy. T.J. Watt is a great pass rusher, but I think DeJuan Jones will play well. I think that T.J. Watt, he's going to be going against, it's a front side type guy at right tackle. DeShaun Watson will see him over there. He can slide up in the pocket and make moves and extend plays. I think DeJuan Jones has to just not do too much. I think one of the ways you can wear T.J. Watt down is put that big body on him. No, listen, if you it's hard to get the quarterback, and it's hard to make pressure when you're trying to decide whether it's play action or you getting double teamed or blocked down the field. So I think mixing it up on him, his body will wear him down a little bit. And then the Minkah Fitzpatrick and DeShaun Watson, no missing over the middle. What I would like to see them do is if they're coming out in 2 high safeties, because they scared of what DeShaun Watson is going to do throwing the football, establish Nick Chubb, because that means they don't have a heavy box. That means you're running in a light box with guys that are smaller, corners trying to stop Nick Chubb. And then once they come up, now we can hit our deep shots. Now we can go play action and take our deep shots. But let's go run complimentary football and get these dudes on their heels.
All right, let's head to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. This is how you guys have called in and see this game playing out.
Hi, this is Rico. I personally know a few Steelers fans, and they're not really taking us serious. They feel like we're still the same old Browns. I mean, they are slightly concerned, but overall, they just don't think we could beat them, especially in Pittsburgh. Yes, winning last week versus the Bengals was great, fantastic. But now, to really get some respect in the North Division, we have to go into Pittsburgh and come out with a dub. This game means so much to us, more so than beating the Bengals. Browns must beat the Steelers tonight. It's time to show the world that we're here and we are to be taken seriously. My prediction for the game is 27-6 Browns. Elf around and find out. Let's go.
This is Norman Baldwin Jr. out here in Sierra Vista, Arizona. My prediction for the Browns win is going to be 31-3. Domination by the defense, who we should nickname the Demolition Dog. Shout out to the Nagy brothers. Demolition Dogs. DeShaun Watson has a good game, throws for 3 touchdowns. Chubb runs for a touchdown. It's going to be a bomb. Go Dogs. Woo, woo, woo.
Hey, this Monday, let's go with a Browns win, 27-16, as Pittsburgh struggles in the red zone, with the Browns forcing them to settle for 3 short field goals along with a TD. The defense will hopefully score a touchdown, and the offense will demoralize the Steelers with an unpredictable but balanced offensive attack. No more of the days having to watch Big Ben and his teammates smiling and laughing on the sideline in the fourth quarter. Hey, as for a name for the defense, how about the Dogs of War or the Dogs of Chaos? Let's go Browns.
As always, appreciate all the voicemails. G. Bush, I think it's going to be closer than that. I think the Steelers are going to be desperate. This team is going to be desperate. I do think the Browns win. I think it's going to be closer than I think it's to be within a touchdown. How do you think this plays out? How do you see it playing out? Who needs a big game?
My guess is this. I've said that this is a statement game for the Cleveland Browns. I've said this was a big-time statement game for DeShaun Watson. And this is going to show me whether the Cleveland Browns want to be pretenders or contenders. If they are what I think they are, I think they go in and win this game, and I think they win 31-10. I said that before. I look at it on both ends of the spectrum. I don't see very many areas on the field where the Browns are less talented than the Steelers, especially from your quarterback, your receivers, especially what they have coming out. I think one of the guys that's going to have a really great game in this game is Donovan Peoples-Jones. We talk about not having Amari Cooper in this game. That hurts a little bit. I need to see DPJ getting open. I need to see him, catching the football. I need to see something from Elijah Moore. They've been really talking about what he could do and how many versatile ways they're going to get him involved. If they're going to do that, spot shadow him, get him the ball on touches, jet sweeps, reverses, whatever it may be, put him in the backfield. I want to see that creativity. And then finally, I want to see the defense shut it down. I think that's the most decided advantage they got up front is defense. Myles Garrett, Michael Parsons look real good right now. He looks like he want to put his name on that defensive player of the year. Guess what? Use that as motivation. Get after Kenny Pickett. And it's finally our time to shine. It's our time on Monday Night Football. Listen, let's go. Let's get it together. And let's go ahead and let people know, hey, we're real around here in the North.
G. Bush, as always, great stuff. Appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much.
As always.
All right, G. Bush, make sure you're checking out 92.3 The Fan. Barbershop Saturday mornings. You can also catch them Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show Monday through Friday, 11 until 1. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. We continue talking Browns. Sports4CLE will be right back.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
We continue talking Browns, getting ready for that Monday night game against the Steelers. Let's head to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
Hey, Dave Frank from Cleveland. A couple things about the Monday night game. We got DeJuan over there, a rookie. If anyone needs help, it's got to be him. Jedrick Wills needs to hold his own in this game. If this dude don't live up to standards, something's got to give. You know, he's been in the league quite a few years. And number two, that defense is going to be all over Kenny Pickett. And watch DeShaun shine. Love you, brother. Be careful. You know it's a jungle out there, Dave. Love you, man.
As always, appreciate all the voicemails. Let's welcome in Kenny Roda from the Kenny and JT Show News Talk, 1480 WHBC. So, Kenny, the question was DeJuan Jones going against T.J. Watt, Jedrick Wills on the other side. Those are matchups that you have to be concerned about for the Browns offense, both tackles.
There are three players I think the Browns need to be aware of at all times on offense. Number one, yes, T.J. Watt, Highsmith, and Fitzpatrick, right? So that means Jedrick Wills and DeJuan Jones are going to have their hands full with two of the best edge rushers on one team in the National Football League. So do they give them some help? Do they provide, an extra tight end blocking? Do you chip with an extra running back? Chubb's got to be aware of blitzes. And so I've picked the Browns to win this game on the Kenny and JT Show 27-13. I think they're going to win by double digits because I just think on paper they're the better team. And what I saw in week one, the Browns were good, the Steelers stunk. So I look at this and I say, this is a chance for the Browns to do something they haven't done in a long, long time, and that's winning the regular season in Pittsburgh. We had Tim Couch on our show last week, and he's the last Browns starting quarterback to win in Pittsburgh in the regular season, 33-13 back in 2003, I think it was. And so for them to do that, they cannot let Watt or Highsmith and Fitzpatrick wreck this game. And those are the three guys they need to be aware of. And let's hope that they have a good game plan to help out DeJuan Jones on the right side and on the left side, Jedrick Wills, who's a turnstile at times. Yeah, he has struggled without question. So this Pro Football Focus calls this as a matchup to watch as well. Jones against Watt. Jones will be asked to block T.J. Watt, who recorded 3 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, a fumble recovery in week 1. Jones performed well in the preseason, and he actually, what they don't say, he played pretty well against the Bengals. Certainly much tougher task in his first career start. Kenny, the other thing that you can do when you have DeShaun Watson, you can move the pocket. It's not like you're playing with a guy who is immobile. So you roll him out to the side where you're going to help, away from the other side where you've got the challenge of tackles. You can deal with tackle questions much more easily than guard or center questions. Yes, you can. And that's the great thing that DeShaun Watson brings to this football team that they haven't had. A truly mobile quarterback who can pick up first downs with his legs, as he did multiple times last week in the win over the Bengals, score a touchdown on a quarterback, read at the line of scrimmage, changing the play and taking it in for 6, and he can avoid the pressure. What they will need, though, is help from the tight ends and the receivers coming back to the football following Watson on the scrambles, okay? He gives you that extra element that they need. Let's hope he throws the ball better this week if you're a Browns fan, right, than he did last week. The elements had something to do with that, so hopefully they won't be a factor tonight. I haven't looked at the weather forecast just yet for 8:15 tonight in the Steel City. But if the weather's good, no excuses this week about throwing the football, and hopefully Watson's legs can provide extra time. It's not supposed to rain as of 8 o'clock when I checked it, so we'll see. It's supposed to be in the 50s, 60s, and not much wind. So you're right, not much excuse. Well, how good has T.J. Watt been? Take a look at this. T.J. Watt has been a nightmare for the Browns. 15 sacks, 17 TFLs, 24 quarterback hits. Also has an interception. That's in 10 career games against the Browns. And as we mentioned, going up against the rookie. Now, the one thing that DeJuan Jones has shown, if he gets his hands on you, it's over. Nobody's getting away from him. He engulfs you, right? that huge frame, and he's so athletic as well. Now, what my concern is a quick move. A jab step, or dare I say a crossover move from T.J. Watt, right, on DeJuan Jones, getting that big body leaning one way and then you come back the other way. That's something that he will have to look out for. And basically, T.J. Watt is to the Browns what Myles Garrett is to the Bengals, a game wrecker, right? Joe Burrow has nightmares about Myles Garrett. Whoever the Browns quarterbacks have been over the recent years, they've had nightmares about TJ Watt. So he's the biggest factor. I mentioned Highsmith. I mentioned Fitzpatrick on defense. Those are the other guys to keep an eye out for. And then on the flip side, on the offensive side, David, right now with Deontay Johnson out, Pickens is the one guy that if I'm Jim Schwartz, the defensive coordinator, I'm going to try and take away Pickens in this offense of the Steelers.
So Amari Cooper likely out. Got hurt over the weekend, probably not going to be able to go. Who do you think becomes a key? Who becomes the guy, if you will, in the passing
Elijah
game?
Moore. You don't have to finish the question. It's got to be Elijah Moore, right? I mean, all we heard all training camp long before, he was dinged up is, this guy, he can run the football. He can catch the bubble screen. He's fast. He runs great routes. They're going to use him like Percy Harvin. So here's an opportunity to prove that, he's the go-to guy along with DPJ, who's been in the offense the longest of that wide receiving core. But I also want to see a big game if I'm Kevin Stefanski from David Njoku, the tight end. The Steelers linebackers, very good at getting after the passer, but are they good in coverage? And so that's where I think David Njoku with Cooper out could have a big game today.
I'm with you. The thing that I keep waiting to see are seam routes, especially with the tight ends. They tried one early against Bengals, one with a tight end, and you couldn't throw downfield with what was going on. But I'm with you. Let's see if they can find him busting a seam there with the Steelers. All right, this is Steelers Live. Dale Lally, Matt Williamson, talking about the Steelers' passing game against the Browns' defense.
I think that when he references a 12 personnel, I think Washington played a lot against the Niners, often helping with Bosa. I think he'll play a lot in this one as well. Maybe even get Hayward involved too as a matchup guy that they're not used to dealing with. I think you have to get Pickens heavily involved, though, at all areas of the field. I mean, he's more of a zone beater at this point than a man beater, but I even take that back. I mean, he'll be fine against man coverage, but I would try to get him involved on in-breakers in the middle of the field, down the field at all areas, especially without Johnson out. It's time for Pickens to really shine.
And do you think they'll have somebody on him man-to-man?
They used to travel Ward last year with the other coordinator as much as anyone in the league. I think they're going to get away from that, though. I think they're playing sides more often, which is better for communication.
Dale, anything else that sticks out to you in terms of how the Steelers' offense can get going this week?
I do think you still have to try to attack the middle of the field against the Browns. I mean, you know that Garrett's good. You know that Zadarius Smith is good. The cornerbacks, as you mentioned, were really good last week. So I want to see those linebackers tackle. I want to get guys on them. I want to see their safeties, which is not a strength of that team. I want to try to attack those guys. And again, that if you're playing more 12 personnel, maybe you can use Pat Freiermuth a little bit more this week than he was able to be used last week.
Kenny, I think you're going to get a big dose of Najee Harris and Warren early to see if they can run. I would not throw the ball a ton unless I had to.
Right. No, I'm with you. I want to see if I'm Pittsburgh, has that run defense improved? The Bengals didn't try and exploit it last week, even though Mixon had some nice runs. They went away from it because they fell behind. So if I'm Pittsburgh, I'm coming out running to see if I can establish the running game, play action off of that, suck the linebackers up. And they're right. Both of those gentlemen are correct in saying that the linebackers are the weakest part of this Browns defense. Anthony Walker, Sione Takitaki, JOK. Those are the guys that I think will be tested tonight, along with the center of that defensive line. And we're going to find out how good the acquisitions in the middle of that line this offseason are tonight, I think.
All right, before I let you go, key matchups. You already said you think the Browns end up winning this. What are the keys for them to go to 2-0 for the first time in 30 years?
Balance on offense. I need to run Nick Chubb. Last week, the 49ers dominated the game on the ground. Christian McCaffrey went crazy. No reason why Nick Chubb can't have over 100 yards rushing, 30 to 40 yards receiving out of the backfield, one, maybe two touchdowns. Like I said, maybe get the tight end involved in Njoku, play action pass off that running game for the Browns offense. I think they can control the game that way with DeShaun Watson's legs. So offensively, that's what I need to see. A heavy dose of Chubb, play action off of that. Defensively, get after the quarterback when they do throw the ball. I think 5 sacks by San Fran last week. I think they can get at least 3 with Zadarius and Obo and Myles Garrett rushing from the edges. But force them to be one-dimensional, right? Take away that run, show that you've established a run defense under Jim Schwartz in the acquisitions. And if you make Pickett be one-dimensional and try and beat you throwing the football, and they have to throw the football, then you really turn up that pass rush. And those corners last week, Emerson, Newsome, and Ward were outstanding, and that was against, I think, the best trio of wide receivers in the league. So they should be able to handle this, the wide receivers of the Steelers.
Kenny Roda, Kenny and JT Show, News Talk, 1480 WHBC Radio. As always, great stuff. Thanks so much for the time and the insight. Appreciate it, Kenny.
Anytime, David. Thanks for having me.
Kenny Roda, make sure you check him out, WHBC. Really good stuff with this Browns-Steelers matchup Monday Night Football. We're step aside, take a quick time out. We continue talking Browns. Sports for CLE. We'll be right back. Stay with us. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine. We continue talking Browns on Sports for CLE. Let's head to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
Hello, I have a name for the Browns defense. That would be the Browns body bag defense.
Yeah, I was thinking about a nickname for the defense. We've all heard of Air Force One, but what about Elf Force One?
Hi, this is Rico. I can't take credit for this nickname because somebody else said it, but I'll be that person's voice. How about Elf Force One? Or I got my own nickname, the Rust Belt Bullies, and I'll even throw another one out there and say Lockland. A little play on the word Cleveland and locked. I don't know if any of those are good, but just having a little fun. Anyway, go Browns. Woo, woo.
I believe that Hopkins will stay perfect. Also, I think the name should be River Dogs, especially when we go and beat them at 3 River. Thank you. And I also think that they're not talking enough about the kicker because the kicker didn't deflate the game. Thank you.
As always, appreciate all the voicemails. Let's welcome in Frank Stams, former Browns linebacker. Frank, the defense, everybody's looking for a nickname. They played really well. They need to go out and do it again.
Well, I'd like to, thanks for having me on, David. I'd like to come up with a nickname, and I know I could come up with a better nickname than the nicknames I've just heard in the last 30 seconds. Something that the players would really relish. Don't get me wrong, I don't want to be too critical, but yeah, the Browns are playing. They first week, they really look good. The defense carried the day. Offense had its struggles, but far less struggles than Cincinnati had that day. It was just, kind of, a bit of a challenge with the weather. But I thought DeShaun Watson played well, despite some of the miscues. But, he made some plays with his feet. The running game was there. So, that's, I give the Browns on opening day, I give them an A-.
All right, so Mike Tomlin talked about what he has seen, especially the Jim Schwartz defense that the Browns are now playing.
Man, he's a 4-down expert. They're a 4-down group. They've been a 4-down group. What they've done is they've got red paint, so they painted their barn red. They got 4-down people. They got a veteran 4-down coordinator, man, who is highly experienced and really solid, and it's more the same from them. You got to deal with Miles Garrett and company. You got Wu at linebacker on the second level that plays behind that front, that creates all that disruption. They rotate Taki and Walker, who make a lot of plays, and can't say enough about their corner group. I really thought the corners were the reason they won the game last week versus Cincinnati. Ward, Newsome, and others, man, they got on the line of scrimmage. They challenged the Cincinnati Bengal receivers, and they won most of those challenges. And so we played against Ward and Newsome and that group a lot in recent years. We know their capabilities and how good they are. And so It was just really awesome to watch the video last week and saw how significant that corner contribution was to that defensive performance.
That from the Mike Tomlin Show. Frank, my question to you, when, as a linebacker and as a defender, when your defensive coordinator says, I'm going to let you guys get after it, what does that do? How much do you enjoy playing in that type of scheme?
Yeah, well, no, it's a great question. And as you can see from Coach Tomlin, he's not giving them any bulletin board material. And you know, he's giving them a lot of praise. You know, it's kind of like setting them up. But, you know, when the defense coordinator says, hey, just get out there and play, I mean, it gives you, you know, a sense of freedom. I mean, the last thing you want to worry about, or the last thing you want to do is worry as a football player, an athlete in general. And when your coordinator says just go out and play, then, you know, that worry-free environment goes away. You just go out and make plays and let it loose. And, you know, I mean, you got to take, you know, some calculated risks out there. And you want to be productive. I mean, you know, he's not, you know, well, what he's not doing is micromanaging you. And, you know, in any environment, I don't care what you do, when you're being micromanaged, you know, it's not a good environment. It's not a good vibe to be as productive as you can. You know, these guys are, you know, highly skilled athletes. They work hard at their craft. And, you know, what it says is, hey, I believe in you guys, and go out there and get things, you know, get it done. Now, the caveat on this, and I don't know if we want to talk about it, but, you know, we played one game. And listening to Coach Tomlin's remarks, I don't think this has been the problem in the past with the Browns. You know, it's one game. So, you know, let's make sure we're showing up to practice, working hard, doing the things we're supposed to be doing, so we win the second game.
Yeah, agreed. And you kind of heard Jim Schwartz allude to that. You know, we want to have the swagger, we want to have all that, but we got to do it every week. You know, they set the standard. Now they have to live up to the standard. This is also really interesting. So Kenny Pickett struggled against 49ers. He threw into tight coverage, fifth most passes attempted in week one, 21.7%. Browns defense led the league in perfectly covered dropbacks. So should be an opportunity for some turnovers. When you look at the fact they gave Joe Burrow so much time, would you expect a lot of the same? If you're going against a guy that's in his second year as a starter in Kenny Pickett, disguising coverages, who's coming, who's dropping, do you expect more of that from the Browns defense?
The numbers set it up for a Browns ass kicking of the Steelers tonight. So yeah, I mean it looks promising. I looked at the numbers, didn't get a chance to watch the Steelers game, but I looked at the numbers and they were pathetic. Yeah, granted the Niners are, you know, they're a good team and well coached, and they're a physical bunch on defense. But so were the Browns on Sunday. And to your point about, you know, Schwartz and Saban used to say that when we were up there, say, hey, you've showed me you could do it. Now the hard part is doing it again. And if the Browns do it again, you know, it's going to be a long day for Pickett. You know, that front four was in Burrow's lap all day last week. And I look for the same there. But having said all that, you know, it's a new week. You're on the road at Pittsburgh. So, as they say, the proof is in the pudding.
Well, you know, the other thing is, and you can certainly tell, Grant Delpit was asked about Kenny Pickett in the Steelers offense, and you can certainly tell what the players are being told by what Delpit said.
He beat us last year when we played there, so he's seen us before. We've seen him. We know what he can do. It's year 2 for him. You know, he's gotten better as a player, I'm sure. Got more familiar with their scheme. You know, he can make some sideline throws, deep balls, stuff like that. He got a good receiving 14. He'll catch the ball. So they got weapons, man, so it's going to be a good challenge for us.
You were able to be physical with T. Higgins, part of the reason why you guys held him in check for so long. Now you're going against George Pickens, who's arguably probably a little bit even more physical. Do you think you guys are prepared to handle that?
Physical?
Yeah.
Than T. Higgins?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's gonna be a good challenge. Like, he go catch the ball. He got some raw talent. But we got to go in there with the same mentality that we always have. We trying to be the best in the world, man, and this team's just next in our way, to be honest. So we go in there with that same mentality, take care of business, and get out of there.
And again, you heard him. Pickens beat him last year. That was kind of the question, the answer to the question. They got to go out and play again. You got to do what you did last week.
Yeah, right. I mean, it's a different week. I mean, the margin, to win in the NFL is very slim. I mean, the Browns go out there, they have missed assignments. If they turn the ball over on offense, if they don't go in there thinking that the Steelers can beat them, then they got a problem. If you just walk out there and think that you're just going to show up and win the game, it's going to be a long night. I mean, the line is 2, so the professionals handicapping this game, they've got it as a close game, and it very well could be a close game, and the Browns could lose. But if they go in there and they play tough and they play physical on those receivers, and they get in Pickett's face, I don't see the Steelers scoring more than 10, 14 points.
Yeah, if they go and play the way they're capable of playing on paper, they're a better team. But these games aren't decided on paper. Having said that, some of the key matchups too.
Well, yeah, the key matchups, we zero it down into I'll take a little bit broader. But it's that offensive line for the Cleveland Browns. They've got to be able to run the game. And what I liked about run the ball, what I liked about what they did last week is they finished the game. And the Browns have had trouble with that in the last couple of years. In the offensive line and in the defensive line. I know it's cliche to say it starts in the trenches, but it really does. As far as individual, I think they can win at the offensive line. I think they can win at the defensive line. I think all their matchups, I think they're secondary on the receivers. I think they can win there. They've shown they've gone against one of the best receiving corps in Cincinnati. They showed they could win there. Running the ball, I mean, Chubb's one of the best in the business. So, I see them checking the box on all those group matchups. Individual matchups, sure, you want to have, what's our edge rushers? What's his name?
Garrett Smith.
Yeah, Garrett. Yeah, you certainly want to have him show up, but you're getting it from the other side as well, which was, really promising. Here's the one matchup that's going to be a real issue for the Browns is that new offensive tackle. Again, I think J.J. Watt is it
T.J. Watt,
one of the Watts?
Yeah, T.J. Watt and DeWan Jones.
T.J. Watt.
Yeah.
Now that to me, that's a key matchup right there, and I got a feeling that young offensive tackle, he's in for a bit of an education. So look for them to help him a lot on Watt.
Frank Stams, former Browns linebacker, as always. Great stuff. Appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much, Frank.
Thanks, Dave. Thanks for having me on.
Frank Stams, make sure you check him out. Has a podcast. Go search it. Frank Stams, former Browns linebacker. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. Other side of the break, we continue talking Browns. Sports for CLE. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Try C, where futures begin.
We continue talking Browns, getting ready for that Monday night matchup with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Steelers head coach Mike Tomlin talked about what makes this Browns offense go on the Mike Tomlin Show.
They run the ball on everyone. He is a central component of what they do. Obviously, the presence of DeShaun Watson is significant in his addition to their organization and what he brings. But the nuts and bolts of what they do centers around Mr. Chubb and his ability to run the football and their ability to block people. They got a quality front. They're well coached by a veteran offensive line coach. They got a top-notch guard tandem. They're good on the interior, working in tandem. They're good at pulling those guys. They have a well-rounded and complete running game centered around Mr. Chubb.
Yeah, they also have Elijah Moore, a kid who they utilize in kind of different ways. We saw him last week against Cincinnati catching the ball and also running the ball. New addition to their team?
Yeah, they use him in a variety of ways. Really, we get a lot of carryover in terms of maybe what San Fran was willing to do with Deebo Samuels. This guy's in the backfield. He's outside the backfield. He's dynamic in similar ways. And so we have to deal with him in those ways. But they have an arsenal of guys that are challenging.
Let's welcome in Jacob Roach from BrownsWire.com. And Jacob, weather was a factor in week one. I think we would both agree. Isn't supposed to be a factor tonight. It's supposed to be a pretty decent night in Pittsburgh. What do you expect from the Browns offense?
It's going to look a lot cleaner. I truly think that it will look a lot cleaner. And Mike Tomlin's right in the sense that it is going to start with that running game. And interestingly enough, yesterday on game day morning, Michael Irvin said that he's all aboard the Cleveland Browns hype train. And one thing he pointed out was that added wrinkle of DeShaun Watson's ability to run, to where now you're sitting at this a situation where they even more diversified their running portfolio and what they can do from that, because now you could see a situation where Elijah Moore lines up in the backfield with Watson and Chubb, and you got three players. Who's going to take it? Who's going to pull it? So I think the foundation of that running attack can work on anybody. The weather kind of knocked out the passing attack. I think this week they're going to try early and often to establish the run with Cam Hayward out. He gives Joel Bitonio fits every time they play. Cam Hayward's out. I think they'll try to establish the run game early and then lean on it late. And I think that I expect, knock on some wood, but I expect there to be some fireworks from that passing offense.
Yeah, I would think if they're intent on taking away the run game, I think the Browns will say, okay, then we're going to throw the ball downfield. Again, we'll see. You mentioned Cam Hayward's out, Deontay Johnson's out. It looks like Amari Cooper will not be able to go. He did travel with the team yesterday to Pittsburgh, but it doesn't sound like he's going to play. Who do you think needs to step up in his absence? Or who would you expect? Who would you expect to step up?
I think it's going to be Cedric Tillman. I think you'll see some good usage out of Donovan Peoples-Jones like they've always done. I think you'll see Elijah Moore play some more on the outside than just in the slot like he played most of his snaps last week. But I think this is a situation for Cedric Tillman because I think they like him a lot. His body control and route running, it's not on Amari's level, but you're like, hey, I could see him getting there, somewhere down the line a few years from now. But I just really think that this is kind of a situation where they have Cedric Tillman back there, maybe some more snaps with Marquise Goodwin. But I think Donovan Peoples-Jones will be who he was last year. He'll slide into that kind of role. Elijah Moore will move around. But I think the new body that comes onto the field and gets more snaps, I think it's going to be Cedric Tillman because I think he can work on a kind of a weak secondary out there. He can create good amounts of separation and just be a reliable target. And that's what Amari is. He's a guy that creates separation. He can get vertical if you really, really need him to. But he creates separation in an easy, open target, and I think Cedric Tillman can be that in a limited role, not quite on Amari's level, but I really think he's the guy to watch if Amari doesn't go.
So how concerned you have DeJuan Jones, who's going to start at right tackle, Jedrick Wills, who has been inconsistent, we'll say, at left tackle. Mm-hmm. You got Highsmith and you got Watt. How concerned are you with those two ends and the Browns' two tackles?
pretty concerned. Like, I'm not going to sugarcoat it for you, but like, I know that DeJuan Jones will get some assistance over on that side. And to be honest, I'm really more concerned about the other side, because if they're putting tight ends and running backs over there to help DeJuan Jones on TJ Watt, and I hope they are, because if not, it's going to be a long night for Watson. But I mean, Alex Highsmith, man, I've always thought he was pretty good, but he comes out of nowhere. He does a lot of his damage last year when they had TJ Watt was in and out of the lineup, so they weren't at 100% on that duo. But anytime you got a guy coming in with 14.5 sacks in the previous season, you got to really pay attention to him. So I'm more concerned about TJ Watt's always going to get his, and I always expect TJ Watt to get his. I'm really concerned about Highsmith also getting his, because if those get paired together, it could be a really long night. So that's the first match I'm looking at, is Highsmith versus Wills tonight.
The other thing I would say, I would expect them to move the pocket, and DeShaun Watson can throw on the run. I would expect that's another way you kind of help those guys, is you give them some help with a chip or a tight end, and you move the pocket. So I think we're going to see a lot of that. This is kind of interesting. So one of the keys, and this is from Mac, this is a tweet, Browns have to get Nick Chubb going. Since 2018, Browns are 0-7 against the Steelers when Chubb does not get 90-plus total yards. Same defense that gave up 169 to Christian McCaffrey last week. And the Browns were effective when they threw the ball to Nick Chubb. The more I saw them throwing the ball to Nick Chubb underneath, the more I liked it.
Yeah, and it really, throwing it underneath can really help to slow down some of those pass rushes and things, especially if you're utilizing some of those screen games and really taking advantage of aggressive defensive line play. I watched that Pittsburgh game against the 49ers, and their front just got moved around, especially once Cam Hayward was not in there. In the run game, their linebackers looked like the Browns linebackers last year, because it was a similar situation where the front was getting beat, and the defensive linemen were getting pushed back into the linebackers' laps. Nick Chubb really has a great shot here, because, like you said, they utilize him more in the passing offense and do some of them swing passes, and Jerome Ford got involved in some of that stuff too. I just think that this is finally the chance where Nick Chubb can really have a good game without Cam Hayward. I mean, it's one thing to talk about just one defensive player being out, but I truly think it's that big of a deal. Like, you can remember when the Browns are running the ball on everybody, they go into Pittsburgh and Cam Hayward shuts it down. Well, now he's not there. They have a weak secondary. The linebackers aren't very good. Go out there and attack with Nick Chubb early and often in all facets of the game. Just be creative, move everybody around, and I think it could be a lot of fun tonight if they really can do that.
All right, this is another thing. We've talked about Elijah Moore. So Moore played 28 passing snaps, tied for the most on the Browns with DPJ. Ran 64% of his routes from the slot, 36 from the outside. 3 of his 6 targets for 43 yards were on the outside as well. Played 23 rushing snaps, 2 carries, 19 yards. I would expect him to play outside more with Amari Cooper being missing, but you could see that a group effort as well, based on who they think matches up against the Steelers better.
Yeah, and they've truly got an NFL caliber wide receiver room now, like top to bottom, with the depth and the other weapons that they've got in there. It's to the point where, like, last year, if Amari had missed like a big game like this, it would have been really, really concerning. And for me, obviously, I want Amari Cooper out there, but I'm like, okay, you can give Elijah Moore more. You can give Cedric Tillman some. Donovan Peoples-Jones can go in and out of the slot, and you can move these guys. I think they're in the situation with these weapons where they can truly be creative and just go out there and creative. Sorry about that. So they can really be creative there and move things around and just create mismatches. We saw it, if you get Elijah Moore on a linebacker, things like that, because you move him inside and outside, and you got the running attack. Jerome Ford, I thought, played better outside of that fumble. And I just think that you're finally in a spot where even if you miss a guy or two, you have enough weapons and enough talent and coaches that understand how to attack defenses that you can create these mismatches, especially with like David Njoku. He didn't get a ton of love in the first game with bad weather, but I really think that they've got top to bottom, even without Amari Cooper, there's enough talent, weapons, and skill sets to really create those mismatches that you were talking about and just put them in a position to move the ball up and down against a secondary that just had a bunch of blown coverages last week in Pittsburgh.
All right, so this is how the NFL Network analysts predict this game. 10 of them, and 6 of them have the Browns winning, most being relatively close games. Maurice Jones-Drew and Daniel Jeremiah have it, more than one score, one with an overtime game. When you look at this, I fully expect this to be a very desperate Steelers team who usually plays pretty well at home. How do you expect this to play out?
Yeah, it's really interesting to think about the Steelers looking down 0-2, and it's just that doesn't happen under Mike Tomlin, So you're like, okay, let's see, how does this thing go? I expect them to be a lot better. I expect Pittsburgh and a Mike Tomlin coach team to not go out there and get dominated up front again. But if you watch the offensive line against San Francisco, there were defensive linemen in the backfield on every snap for the 49ers. That offensive line got dominated up and down. We don't know if Okafor is going to play. Dan Moore led up like 9 pressures and a couple of sacks. So if he plays, you're going to have the opportunity to exploit a weakness on the offensive line. Truly, I look at the keys to this game as the same as last week. Their offensive line is not as good as Cincinnati's offensive line. And you've now got the opportunity to go out there and create even more pressure on Kenny Pickett, who held on to the ball for a long time last week. I mean, he was holding on to some of the longer snap to throws in the NFL last week. If you can do what you did and get in his face early and often, I got a 28-17 game. That's the way I look at it, where they'll battle for 3 quarters, and then the Browns will just wear them down with Nick Chubb in the 4th quarter, and they'll ice it away on the defense dominating up front again.
Yeah, I think the Browns win a close game. I think it might be even a little lower scoring, 21-17, something like that. But I'm with you. As long as the Browns, and they were -2 in turnovers, as long as they don't give the ball away, if they take the ball away a couple of times, it could snowball on the Steelers with Kenny Pickett. Jacob Roach, as always, appreciate the time and the insight. Great stuff. Thanks, Jacob.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Jacob Roach, make sure you check him out, brownswire.com. It's going to do it for this edition of Sports for CLE. We will see you back here tomorrow at 4 o'clock when we're talking about that Browns-Steelers game from Monday night. Have a great night, everybody. See you tomorrow at 4.